So you have decided to take fluid mechanics with Dr. Barry. Now, I'm Matthew Vanderhoff. I'm a senior 3 mechanical engineer. I took this class during spring 24, and I'm going to share with you some of the things I did that I was able to yield success in the class and understand a lot of the concepts at a fundamental level. So you may have heard through the grapevine that fluid mechanics is a very difficult class, and it's one of the hardest classes that MEs have to take. And I'm not going to lie to you and sugarcoat it and say that it's a super easy class, but I'm going to share with you many different strategies you can do in order to yield success and break it down to a much more digestible level for any student. So I want to break this into 2 categories. First is studying at a macro level. So that is, what are the large scale things I'm doing before each exam, each quiz throughout the year to understand how to study? And then next is studying at a micro level. So zooming in, how am I solving each individual problem and what are the things that I did to, dive into a more detailed approach. So first, studying at a macro level. There are going to be 3 main things that I did throughout the year before every exam and quiz that allowed me to understand the fluid concepts at a very fundamental level and allowed me to yield success. So at a macro level, the first thing is after each lecture, I would go through the lecture notes and I would write down on flashcards the key definitions of terms that we learned in the lecture. So at the very first lecture, you're going to learn things such as shear stress, viscosity of fluids, whatever it may be. So after the lecture, I would go through these lecture notes and I would write down on flashcards or on a Quizlet these individual terms, and I would study them throughout the year. This is very important, and Dr. Barry is going to stress it on the very first day, and I cannot stress it as much as well. You need to know the key definitions of terms, because by doing so, that is going to make every problem throughout the year super easy. So that's the first step at a macro level. You're going to write down after each lecture, go through the lecture notes and write flashcards of the key definitions and terms. Next, at a macro level, you're going to go through those lecture notes and you're going to do the problems that Dr. Barry does in class. These are going to be an introduction to any topic that you may be learning throughout the class. Once you do those lecture note problems, you're going to be introduced into how to attack the new concept that you may learn, and it might be confusing at first, but these problems will introduce you into the concept. Next, the third step, after you write down the definitions on flashcards and do the lecture note problems, then you're going to do what I believe was the thing that yielded me the most success, is Dr. Barry is going to provide unassigned homework problems that you don't necessarily have to turn in, but I definitely think you should do them. And I can't stress this enough. It is the thing that yielded me the most success. After you do the introductory problems and write down the definitions, you're going to download a digital copy of the book, or you can buy a physical copy if you so please. And you're going to go through those homework problems that he assigned multiple times. So I, before any exam or quiz, would go through the unassigned homework problems 2 to 3 times, and that might be excessive for some people, but that is what yielded me a lot of success, is rinse and repeat. You have to constantly be doing the different problems because, like I said, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It can be difficult, but by knowing the definitions from flashcards, doing the lecture note problems, and then repeatedly doing the textbook problems, you're going to be introduced into the key concepts and how to solve individual problems, so that when exam or quiz time comes, you are going to be a master at doing these problems and it's going to be second nature. So those are the 3 main things: writing down lecture note definitions, doing the lecture note problems as an introduction to the types of problems, and then lastly, doing the unassigned homework problems multiple times. Now, at a micro level, this is zooming in, how did I attack individual problems and what yielded me success? Because sometimes you're going to be thrown a problem in fluid mechanics and you're going to have no clue at all how to do it. What I did, and what Dr. Barry will introduce on the very first day of class, is something called the path. Now, this is going to seem like an arbitrary term at the very beginning of the year, but what the path is, it is a general solution format that allows you to break any complex fluid mechanics problem into individual chunks of topics that you have learned throughout the year. So, for example, throughout the year, you're going to learn individual things that build on each other. You're going to learn manometry, which is then gonna then build into Bernoulli. Then you're gonna learn conservation of momentum. Then you're gonna learn conservation of energy. All these things are gonna build on each other. So following the path, when you get a problem that is, complex, or you may have no way or idea how to solve the problem, is you're gonna follow this path. You're gonna write down the key concepts you have learned. So I would get a problem on an exam and I would write down manometry, Bernoulli, conservation of energy, conservation of momentum. And then I would check through each of them, looking at the problem to see, can these things apply to this problem? If so, let me start attacking these individual concepts, and that will unfold the problem in front of you and start to build on itself. So you look at a problem, okay, manometry applies. I would just start with manometry, take it at small bite-sized pieces. I would do manometry and then, oh, look, I've found something that allows me now to apply Bernoulli, etc., etc. So that is what the path is, and that is how I attack problems at a micro level. So to summarize everything, at a macro level, I would write down definitions throughout the year, study them to understand the key concepts. Then I would do the example problems in class that allowed me to understand and introduce me into the topics, types of problems. Next, I would practice the unassigned book problems multiple times to really rinse and repeat and practice, get it as second nature in my brain to how to attack different types of fluid problems. And at a micro level, how was I solving each of these problems? I was following the path, writing down the key things I've learned in class and taking the problem at bite-sized pieces throughout the entirety of the problem. One of the last things I would recommend, throughout the entire year, Dr. Berry is going to offer office hours. Usually they're going to be on Wednesday, early mornings. He'll buy coffee for everybody. You would be a fool if you do not go to these office hours. This is your time where you can get individual help from Dr. Berry on how to attack these complex topics. And I absolutely recommend wholeheartedly to go to these office hours. That is going to be your time to practice. So by doing all the things I outlined, I was able not only to yield success on all the exams and quizzes, but most importantly, I was able to understand fluid mechanics at a very core level to apply to future classes and future, things in industry that may come up that are related to fluid mechanics. So good luck, try to follow the path, try to follow the things that I've outlined, and I guarantee you will have success throughout the entirety of MECH-322.